Now, do you want us to reschedule the other now?
We have to do it within the meeting. We'll do it during
We'll
the
start
superintendent's
this
update,
meeting.
because it has to be done in a meeting. All right, we'll call this meeting to order. This is the regular meeting of the Harrison County Board of Education, October 4th, 2022. And with that, we'll call the Pledge of Allegiance. Assessor Romano, will you lead us in the pledge?
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Might as well stay up. You're up.
Oh, I thought he meant us.
With that, it brings us down to special recognitions and presentations, and Mr. Rocky Romano, Harrison County Assessor, is here to speak to us.
Thank you all for having me this evening. I wanted to talk to you about Amendment 2. First, I'd like to go through my history with Amendment 2. My history with it is I came into office in 2017, and I was put on to the Legislative Committee and then was made co-chair of that committee. So we were on this. We were a stakeholder in what was called Senate Resolution 7. Senate Resolution 7 started all of this, and this did not start in 2017. It was prior to that, but that's my history with it. What that was, Senate Resolution 7 was to do away with business personal property tax on inventory on industrials. This was the goal. The goal was to do away with industrials inventory because they claimed they couldn't bring manufacturing to West Virginia. And I don't know if you'd have to be blind and deaf to not see the manufacturing that has been coming into West Virginia throughout the year, in the last couple of years. I mean, we just recently got Berkshire Hathaway bringing in their titanium over in Jackson County after Jackson County just scored Nucor. Just down the road at Taylor County got Sparks, the battery plant. So that's going to be a Jerry Run. That's a big deal. But anyway, this is where this started at. We worked as a stakeholder for this. The Senate and their plan, they claimed that it was 140 million. Our numbers were more like 180, 190 million. So that thing did not pass that year. It did not go through. A couple years later, they keep working on it. They went to Senate Resolution 8 and 9. That's when they started bringing in the small mom and pop businesses. This was not a concern of the Senate, Senator Blair, Senator Tarr at the beginning. This was not a concern of theirs. They started bringing in the small businesses to try to get this going. Then the ultimate Christmas tree light was put into this when they did it. Then they started talking about the ad valorem tax on personal property vehicles. This was never a thought in their heads, but because they knew they were not going to get the everyday person to vote, that has been put on there now too. The bottom line with Amendment 2 is the way that it reads. I want to read it to you. The amendment, to amend the state constitution by providing the legislature with authority to exempt tangible machinery and equipment, personal property directly used in business activity, and tangible inventory, personal property directly used in business activity, and personal property tax on motor vehicles from ad valorem property taxation by general law. Now, at most things when I speak, I read this and ask people what they heard. 99% of the time I hear they're doing away with personal property tax on vehicles, because that's exactly what this is set up for the people to read and think and forget about, to give them the legislative authority. The authority was in, that's a history lesson for West Virginia. In 1932, the voters went to the legislators, and they did not want the legislators to have the right to exempt anything without voter say so. So they got this on there and they passed it. They put it into the Constitution that this has to be put on a ballot for voters to vote on. So my take on Amendment 2 is, if the senators have this big plan that they can do away with all these taxes, why has it not been presented to us? They say they have, that now I'm sure you all have seen where the governors come out against Amendment 2, and now there's the war on words between the Senator Blair, Senator Tarr, the governor and Secretary Hardy, they're all over this and everything. But the bottom line is, I had Ben Queen ask me if I would sit down with Senator Tarr one-on-one, and I said, absolutely, but I'm going to tell Senator Tarr exactly what I'm going to tell you. I will not vote my authority over to anyone else. I tell people, the only person I trust enough in this world for everything is my wife, and I don't trust her with my money. So, you know, this is with our money. As the governor said at Wheeling, he said that, give me all your money, and then I'm going to make it all right or give it back to you. Because that's what they're telling you right now. But the bottom line is, this is an authority thing. The same thing with your Amendment 4, it's authority grab. Amendment 1's more authority for the legislatures. But anyway, the plan that they are talking about that they have, they're talking 504 million. Well, they did not include supplementals. Supplementals are the people who do not file their assessment on time, and we have to do supplementals. So we're looking at probably $50 million across the state that we'll see on supplemental. So this original, we're looking at $558 million. And they're going to make us whole. They're going to make the counties whole, they're going to make the school boards whole, and they're going to make, and then they're going to give the counties an extra $1 million. I have no idea where they think they're finding this money at. But, and they haven't shown us where they're going to find this money at. The other thing is, when they say make us whole, we've asked questions about the levies, the special levies. Well, I know in the paper yesterday, Senator Blair talked about the special levies do include the real estate, but they also include personal property. So whatever we have voted on for that special levy, it's going to go down with this. It's going to be less. The school boards, I guess, you know, with the special, I can't think of the plan that they have for the Board of Education that keeps you whole if there's some money down. So that gets another fit. So you're probably only be about 85%, but it's still the loss that the Board of Educations are going to see. And that's going to be all across the state. Also, nobody has taken in TIFs. We have asked questions and questions about the TIF programs, how they're doing. These bonds are already sold. How are you making this up? They have not got an answer for us except for trust us. And that's a lot of their answer is trust us. The other thing is they have not taken in public utilities. So we're all sitting back and thinking manufacturers are going to get exempt and the public utilities are going to sit there and say, that was really nice of you. Now let us pay our taxes now. Good luck with that. They're going straight to court and the public utilities will be included before it's over with if this happens. And we're looking at probably an estimated another 150 million there. Then you have the Railroad Reform Act. So there's probably another 60 million when the railroads jump on board. So this thing could snowball to $700 to $800 million that they could possibly exempt and try to come from. The problem with it is right now, they say they're not, but the Senate and the House are not in agreement on what they're doing right now. The governor wants his 10% income tax cut. The House has voted, the House in special session did vote for that. The Senate did not even take it up. So that special session was just a lot of wasted money because nothing was accomplished at all. But the other thing is, it is a lot of money that they say they can make whole. They say they have the plan to see this in writing. We have not seen it yet. I just came today from Stonewall. We had a meeting there. It was the County Commissions Association and the Association of County Officials had met there. And a few weeks ago, I think you all probably saw where we all did come out against. I have been working against this a long time. I started out as educating voters on what you're actually voting for, that you are not voting for an actual exemption the next day. Because people do feel like they're going to vote for this, they're exempt from paying car tax. That is not at all in there. This is, they may start out with everything, they may start out with one thing, who knows, you know. That's the concern we have, is nobody knows what they really want to exempt, but we do know that they claim the manufacturers cannot get in. There is a lady named Rebecca McPhail, who's the president of the Manufacturers Association. For 4 years, I asked Rebecca McPhail for the list of the companies that would not come to West Virginia because of the business inventory tax. I have never seen a list. I gave up on asking for the list and asked for one company, and I still have not got that list either. Not one company they presented. I'm not going to bring up the senator's name, but the senator who worked to get the Berkshire Hathaway company into Jackson County spoke yesterday as well. And he talked about where he sent a letter to 10 different billionaires across the country. And he actually got the second man, the guy right under Warren Buffett, to contact him. And he said he was talking to him. He said, "Did he really read my letter?" And he said, "Yeah." He said, "You think I can get it signed?" So, but anyway, when he finished, he told us all about the company, everything that he did. And it was, I mean, you know, he did a great job. But he thought he was getting out. But I asked him the ultimate question. I just wanted to know how many of these companies or billionaires you reached out to claimed that they wouldn't come to West Virginia because of the inventory tax. And he was laughing. He said, "I was trying to get out of here. I thought I wasn't going to have to answer that." But his answer was no. None asked. None asked. If you've seen, there was a manufacturing company in Cabell County, West Virginia, that is moving over to Kentucky. Their problem was the workforce. They got a better building and they got flatter land where they were going in Kentucky. Not one single word was ever voiced because of inventory tax. They say that inventory tax, we're an outlier. Well, that's not true. There are 38 states that have business and manufacturing tax. So we're not there. We're like the 9th best business tax climate in the country right now. We also had a gentleman today who spoke to us about Ohio. Ohio they did away with business inventory and manufacturing tax and inventory tax, and they did away with a few others. The problem was they were kept hold by the state assembly, as they're referred to, for 7 years, no problem. And then now Ohio's a little different than us. They do have term limits, whereas we know we can get new delegates that are coming in. They're going to think different than the ones that are in there right now. So we don't know what they're going to do. When they talk about perpetuity and whatnot, we don't know if that can stay, because as you all know, you're not binded by a contract from former board members. So it's the same thing there. Yes.
I got a couple questions. First of all, as you know, we had an ethics opinion where we can educate voters on what they're voting on, not necessarily take a stance as a board,
Right.
We can individually. So I'm going to ask this question. If, you know, from the projections I saw, if they were given this ability to change the tax code and they chose to exempt the maximum amount, I'm hearing for Harrison County to be somewhere around 26-27%. Is that correct?
Yes, it's like 26.3%.
So our budget's around 158 million. You take out federal dollars, we're down to about 128 million, 129 million of actual dollars. So then you would take 26% off of that.
Correct.
Which would also affect the regular levy and the excess levy, correct?
Correct.
So that means, you know, the free textbooks would more than likely go away.
That's probably a given.
Yeah, and
I mean, because that's the first
it would
thing.
be a forced consolidation for a lot of schools, which, you know, may be
Exactly.
something that we need to look at anyway, but you know, it would be
it's scary.
But the bigger issue is the books, because that's what I have a concern, because I would say that a cost of an enrollment per student is going to be over $2,000 per student, correct?
Oh, it's more than that.
So we
Yeah.
know we have a series of parents that would never pay that, wouldn't be able to.
They wouldn't be, I mean,
They
some
wouldn't be able to,
wouldn't,
but
but the others
they-
won't be able to.
Some
Exactly.
won't. So that's my major
Hey,
concern.
Gary, what else would be affected? in that excess levy other than
Well, all the
textbooks?
excess levy, I mean, I would say, our
Free lunch.
free lunch, the football games, those.
Cleaning your buildings in the
Oh,
summertime.
yeah, I mean, it would, you're gonna take, now, they're gonna try to make you whole on the back end with some, but
Yeah, well, I'm sure you all are in where the county commission is too, that they can't fund special service things until they take care of actual constitutional,
right,
commitments.
and most people need to understand that any government budget, at least 85% and sometimes up to 90% of your budget is encumbered with salaries to begin with. So after
Oh.
that, sometimes it's even higher than that. So then you have 10%, then you have encumbered funds. So out of 126 million as it stands, we may only have the purview of allocating 3 to 4 million of that, so it's not like out of that, we've got
Exactly.
this money. It's already spoken for money. And so the money that's coming off of that is going to come off the money that we would be funding other, the outside things other than
Exactly.
salaries. The
And there's a
salaries-
lot, there's a
Now,
lot.
our excess levy does pay for additional salaries for teachers.
Yeah.
That's why we're able to recruit and also some other benefits, which would go away. So our teachers would be taking a pay cut.
And keep in mind the personal things that are going to be here on your vehicles or your businesses, whatever, if you have one. That's going to be a detriment to each. It's the fear that the assessors have across the state is when it comes time, that if they do find a way, they talk about the $600 million surplus that they have, which a lot of that is ARPA money and federal money, which is not going to continue year after year. But if they can keep them whole for a little while, then they reach into it. Our 60% assessment is not in the Constitution. That is already free to the legislators with a 2/3 vote to raise that to 70, 80, 90%. Me, I'm not the smartest guy in the world. I went 18 years of my life without a house payment, and I decided to go buy a new house. So I certainly don't want to see them raise the tax on my house when I have a 22 vehicle and a 2002 vehicle. I'd much rather just pay those personal property taxes. But and there's so many things that they bring up and they say that they think they're no. I had a senator in the June meetings ask me how much my percentage was from personal property as assessor. And I had to ask him 3 times what he said because I couldn't believe he asked me. I said, I don't get a percentage of that. I get a percentage from dog tags. Who in the hell's going to come pay a dog tag if they don't have to come take care of personal property for anything else? But well, what about the real estate? And I said, you got to be kidding me. You really think I get a percentage of this? You just voted the pay raise for elected officials and you don't even know how we're paid? Sunday's paper I was reading, and Senator Blair, in one part, said, think about the hospitals out there. They pay personal property tax on all kinds of equipment and machinery, and that deters the health care that we receive. Well, I've been an assessor for this is my second term. Hospitals do not pay anything on their equipment. Nothing. They are exempt. All hospitals are exempt. And as you know, all of our doctors have recently started going under the umbrella of WVU hospitals because then they're exempt and they get their salary. It's less insurance. I mean, it's a great thing. I mean, I would do the same thing as a physician, but to make this statement, they do not pay taxes. They are exempt on their machinery. Now, leasehold equipment is taxed, but that's taxed to the leasing company, not to the hospitals. So there's a lot of things. And folks, I can go on and on this, and then I start beating a dead horse. So I'm going to leave it at that. But if you have any questions, I'd love to answer any questions.
What other venue are you able to get the word out to the public?
Well, right now, and I'm asking people like yourselves who are elected, keep in mind that talk to every constituent that voted for you or you think voted for you or anybody else, because it doesn't matter if you're only talking to 4 people, if they talk to somebody else, because this is a grassroots campaign for us right now. Manufacturing, I believe we're going to see some billboard and advertising coming out from the manufacturing, from car associations and different things of that. Myself, like I'm going to Stonewood City Council this evening. I have scheduled myself for all the city councils. I'm going to all the senior citizens luncheons. There's 13 satellite locations or senior locations in Harrison County. I will be at all of them. I've talked to Joe before about this. We were at Mark Music, the assessor from Mon County, and I spoke to the CFOs for all the Board of Educations on this. And that was prior to the Association of Counties and the commissioners coming out against. This was just to educate and talk to everybody there. Thursday, I am meeting with the statewide meeting is at Bridgeport Conference Center for all the financial officers for the municipalities. So hoping to get through to them. But each small group I talk to, just if you can talk to more people, this is the thing people need to understand. We had a gentleman in the office today. I didn't get to the office till late because I was at the meeting and left. A gentleman came in, so, well, why do I need to be assessed? I'm not going to have to pay this next year. It's going to pass. And it's like, well, sir, you know, even if it does pass, you'll still be paying next year because it's not going to go away that soon, because the Senate and the House are going to have to agree with this. And let's face it, the governor's there till 24 and he's going to fight this all the way. And, you know, Governor Justice, I'm not a, you know, I wouldn't sit here and say I'm a huge fan, I'm not against, but, you know, there's a guy that could save millions of dollars if this passes, and he's working against it. So there's something to be said there.
So one of the things I'll mention is that we have an association of school board members. And our school board member association has come out and is trying to work with a group of people to oppose specifically Article 4, Amendment 4, because it relates so much to education.
Absolutely.
But also Amendment 2. So would it benefit the groups to merge together to talk? To reach,
Oh, I think so.
I mean, that's, you know,
I
we just
think so,
had a new
absolutely.
school board member association.
You know, I gave Angela a copy of, and Joe may still have it, and you can get online to them. It's the Center for Budget and Policy. They are a nonpartisan, nonprofit think tank. They're out of Charleston, but it's also a DC organization. And their numbers, we're not hanging our hat on their numbers, but their numbers are spot on. They work, they do really well with the numbers, the percentage that you can see that what I left with Angela is that's a breakdown of Harrison County. They did the statewide, but this is a breakdown of Harrison County. You'll see the percentages that they're talking about you lost. Look at that, and if you have any questions, you get back with me, and I think Kelly Allen from Center of Budget and Policies on there as well. They're, I think they're in Lewis County tonight at the county commission talking. They spoke to the county commission, or Kelly Allen did a presentation to county commission this past Wednesday. So their numbers are pretty well. The numbers that the assessors did for the senators, what we did in joint Senate Resolution 7 I was telling you about, we ran numbers. Different assessors' office ran their own numbers, and we all did the same thing, but we did different formulas and stuff, so we were coming up with different numbers. To do this, we used GST, which is Global Science Technology out of Fairmont. All the assessors use them, so we had GST run these numbers. So the formula was exactly the same for all counties, so that we knew the numbers were going to be what we wanted to present to them. You'll see some of the things the senators use is like 400 and some million, but the main thing they're using is the 508. And like I say, that does not include supplementals. And that's a big deal too, because that definitely, I mean, it's an estimate, but we looked at what they used in the papers they're showing you, they used the 21 tax year. And some of the things they used the highest of the last 7 years. But they've run it different ways, and so but like I say, it could balloon to almost 800 million with everything that could be included there if they went for all of it. But the biggest thing is we are voting to give them the right to do this. And my personal opinion is, I thought we already gave them that authority when we elected them. You know, if you have this bill, you want to do away with the personal property vehicles, then put that in a bill, and put it out there for us. And when I say you're voting your authority away, the fact is, you know, Mr. Tucker, right now, you could come up with a great idea to do away with business personal property taxes, and whatever your idea, you can bring to your delegate, and they'll look at you and say, hey, it's a good idea, I'm gonna sponsor this bill, and they get others to sponsor it. That's no longer gonna happen if we vote this. We do not have that say anymore. And people in 1932, I believe, because of all the technology that we have at our fingertips, I think overall they were probably smarter than we are. They had to learn. I mean, you know, I Google something, answer somebody, and 10 minutes later, I still don't know the answer, but because I just read it off of what I Googled. So, I mean, you know, it's something we really have to think about and talk to others, you know, and see. But people they're led to believe what they believe. And I commend the legislators for trying to do tax cuts. God bless them. That's what we need. I mean, there's got to be some way to do this. But to just vote carte blanche authority over without a plan makes no sense to me.
Maybe going off a little bit, off the track here a little bit. You know, you talked about all these counties and the big industries that are coming in. I watch the news every morning, you know, and it's come to Jackson County, they come to Taylor County, do you think that Harrison County will ever get through some of the politicians' heads, the local politicians?
Oh, yeah, I mean,
Do you think you ever get, though, to where something big may come to Harrison County and all that we have to offer?
well, absolutely.
They just continue bickering and just going in circles.
You're right there, but keep in mind, you know, Mitsubishi came in here and they bought out, you know, some fledgling company, and what they've done up at the airport is unbelievable.
Yeah.
You know, our terminals at the airport, everything that's coming in up there is huge. You know, Christian Martin Cat hasn't been here that long with Stockmeyer Urethanes. That's a $30 million project he brought into West Virginia. And there's other things going on. I mean, Harrison County is still working to get other things. And, you know, eventually our guys are going to get their stuff together and they're going to pull these. But, you know, with what the thing is, what senators are saying is they're talking about companies such as Mitsubishi who came here and put $30-40 million more into what they bought here. You know, they're saying that companies are leaving because of this, and we don't see that. I mean, there's companies on the Ohio River, they're saying they're going to leave West Virginia and go to Ohio. Well, something's stopping them because they haven't done it yet. But yeah, Harrison County still needs to work. I mean, look at, you know, Marion County scoring stuff, and it's coming. And, you know, let's face it, all of north central West Virginia, we are way more blessed than the southern part of the state and other areas. So, I mean, we can count our blessings there. But I think you're going to see more and more. But the bottom line is nobody is complaining about the inventory tax and claiming that that is why they're not coming. But this is what it started over. And then, you know, like I said, they didn't have all the other stuff. They didn't have the small businesses. They didn't have the automobile, anything on there at the time.
And our bigger issue now is not the business coming in. We've got plenty of business. Our problem's getting the workforce into the business. And then if you take another, you know, 20 million out of the school system that's going to be used to train those workers, then it's further erodes that. And that's our problem is we have more business than we have workforce here.
Well, the senator was talking about that's bringing in Berkshire Hathaway. There's other things. They're talking 3,000 to 7,000 jobs that could be coming in, and we don't have the workforce for that. We got to educate them. Sparks, I think what Sparks has done is commendable. You know, Sparks is reaching out to unemployed miners to train to work in their plant. And I think that's very cool of them just to, you know, to think of that. And I think there's a lot more people out there, you know, miners. I know when I was young and miners got laid off, they were going to Career Center, they were learning electrician, they were learning different things. But since they've been off, it's like, they've been told so many times they're gonna be going back to work. They're just sitting around waiting, and then I don't think it's ever gonna happen. They need to get at it. So I think what Sparks has done, I think that a lot of other ones are gonna do this, and we're gonna see new people coming in. The other thing with Ohio and some of these, if you look at the states that do not have business inventory, they're not seeing growth. They're not seeing population growth. What they are seeing is automation in their plants, in their factories and stuff. Rather than bringing people in to do the work, they're automating, and it gets done. They're paying big money for that equipment, but they're not paying tax on it. They're not feeding it. They're not paying it insurance. And so it's making them money down the road, but they're not getting the people.
All right, well, thank you.
All right, thank you all. Have a wonderful evening. Anybody has any questions you think of later on, please give me a call. Thanks. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Hey, Gary, just a question. Insurance and taxes aren't my forte. So in the long run, if this would pass and they would take away our inventory taxes, how does this actually affect our students in the county? How will that affect what the excess levy or the special levy?
Inventory tax goes with the regular levy or the excess?
Correct.
The regular levy.
So
Basically, we just take 26
26
million
million
out of our budget.
we had said something about textbooks. That's why I was.
Well, that's our excess levy.
Okay.
Our excess levy pays for textbooks for our students.
What did you say the excess levy would lose? Did you say it would lose 5% or a couple?
I don't
million?
know what the percentage is. They'll lose, but all the personal property on it, I'm not really sure.
Okay.
I didn't see that. I can't answer that right now.
That's all right.
I can look it up and try to figure it out for you. Okay?
All right. Thank you.
All right,
Okay,
thanks.
thanks.
Thank you.
All right, that brings us down to item 4, delegations. Are there any delegations? No delegations. Superintendent's update, Ms. Stowe.
Yeah, thank you. I have a few things. Starting on, just to give you an update, on Monday is a PL day. So if you see the buses not running, it's because it's a PL day. So we'll have parent-teacher conferences and training. And on that day, kind of goes down to the safety issue. We are starting our ALICE training, and we'll be on the South Harrison campus. It's the new active shooter training. So we need to get caught up on that. So, and actually, Mr. Snyder and I yesterday attended a safety conference in Charleston, and they had the Sandy Hook folks there, and it was a reevaluation of what happened in that active shooter instance. And I'll have to say, most of the things that have been changed coming out of that, Harrison County, we've already done those things, like the code red keys and the locks on the door, so you're locking from the inside. We have those. One of the things that he said was one of the major things that is so simple to do, and we've already had that discussion, I think at the last board meeting, about the outside placards with the numbers on the outside of the building. He said that would have prevented a lot of issues there in that building. So I was happy to see that we're working on that and getting that done. It's a cheap way to really add some security to the buildings. It was a good conference, and really kind of relayed the issues with secure entrances. And what really was kind of shocking, I know we've really had that as a focus to get our schools safe with secure entries, and they are a deterrent to get kids in, but that building had a secure entrance. And the young man was very, had a lot of firepower when he went in. But anyway, so it was things, it was good to see that we are kind of up to date on that with security. The next thing I have is really curriculum. I think Mr. Dorico has an update. He was looking at the high school scores. This is a follow-up to our last meeting on achievement.
I just wanted to comment this evening that obviously I've got Heidi Griffith and Shelley McKee here with me this evening, but from a county office standpoint, we've looked at the scores. I can also verify the principals, along with staff members at the schools have looked at data. Probably what I want to share with you is no major surprise. A couple of areas that need some attention is, I'll start with student attendance. once again, I think, you know, student attendance is something we've probably been working on in education for quite a long time. But to be honest with you, COVID magnified that. And the expectations were different over the last couple of years. And I think you're going to see a focus on that. Just a quick sidebar. I'll be honest with you, it was an area that I really wanted to spend a lot of time with. And actually, the principals are incorporating working on student attendance in their goals. We do have a hiccup with Weavis 2.0. It's a challenge in trying to learn the new system and so forth, but I am happy to report, because of conversations I've had, they're trying to figure out how to manipulate Weavis 2.0 to their benefit, get the reports they need or the data they need. It has been a major challenge, but they are working on it, and we have teams working on it to just try to assist the best we can, but that is a focus. And then from a test score standpoint, I'm probably not shocking you, math is a major weakness. And I think I can say that almost across the board, every school, every grade level, at the secondary level, and it's something we need to focus on.
Well, go ahead.
Could you be a little more specific as far as the areas of math that
I
we're
can.
not?
Let me just say basic algebra is something that we're seeing to be an item that needs some attention. And to be honest with you, I think the principals can report to you a little bit more detail, but the first thing I'll tell you that we're trying to work on is just utilizing instructional time, making sure it's being used wisely and so forth. Some schools are trying to use a problem of the day or an anticipatory set to reinforce or reteach some of the basic skills. And then we have also incorporated a new program, trying it out at Lincoln High and Liberty High. It's called IXL. In a nutshell, it would be the equivalent of iReady, except for it's at the high school level. But we're utilizing the math component to hopefully do some skill training, instruction, primarily being used during the AA time, homeroom time, to provide some extra attention to those areas and so forth.
So, real quick, I want to bring up, I've been contacted that not all the algebra teachers are using the curriculum and using the textbooks that we purchased for them. There are some algebra teachers that are using last year's textbooks or going to, there's a teacher pay site that they can download things from. I don't remember the name of it, but they're using worksheets and it's sporadic. So, I mean, I think maybe, if we would try and get more cohesive across the board with our instruction, then it might possibly be something that we can look into to see if that creates any improvement.
I got you.
You know what I mean? So I just, it's if we're going to do, on the left hand, we're going to do this, on the right hand, we're going to do this, and then my head's going to do this, my feet are going to do this, we're not on the same page, well, we're going to have different methods, that might not reach the same goal.
Why are we spending money on a textbook adoption if someone?
If nobody's using it.
Well, I know, coming from the classroom, that you have your set of goals and standards from the State Department. How as long as you meet that goal, you can utilize different methods or different textbooks or different resources or whatever to actually teach that specific goal.
Right.
Or concept. So a lot of teachers could probably feel more comfortable with what they were using, and it worked for them before, so that could be the reason why they're still using it.
And the new one, according to what I've been told, is just not as good as the old one. It's just not as good.
Mr. Drugo, were you here for the textbook adoption?
That was 1 year ago, so that's when I first began. So that was adopted the year before I took my job.
Okay, so we don't know who was on that adoption committee or how many teachers and which ones or any, because I usually, the teachers are on the committee to adopt the textbook.
Right. Yeah.
So-
But just what I'm hearing is there's a few teachers that do not like the new textbook and they think that it's not as good as the old one, so they're not using it.
You are correct, though, when Mr. Bonner was speaking and I was listening to him, the first thing that I actually check on him is to make sure we're teaching the content standards. And then I'll have to have the principals check on that.
Right.
And then see what issues maybe the teachers are having with materials in general, and then go from there.
Right. Thank you.
You had a detailed plan from each of the principals, right? You would like for them to present?
That is correct. So
Like
what?
to hear from each
Yes.
one of them? So we could have I spoke with Mr. Henry, possibly a meeting where they could just present each principal what they're doing in their building.
What I'd
After they've looked at their data, and then we can ask questions about the textbooks and what they have
Right.
for uniformity.
What do we
I
spend,
mean, we're-
$1.2 or $3 million on math
Oh,
adoption textbooks? And if
correct.
they're not being utilized,
I-
they may not be the best textbooks, that's fine,
Let's
let's,
let us know before we buy.
right,
Well,
right.
I would like to see the actual county,
Mhm.
and then that way when we get our principals here, okay, we can see where they fall in to the areas of the overall county scheme. If you understand what so if you have the county overview of scores and what areas and detailed analysis of each concept or whatever, and then when the principals come in for each school, we can see where they fit into that whole matrix of everything.
Mhm.
You understand what I'm saying?
You are referencing the county schools. Is that-
Yeah, the county scores overall in what specific areas we are below 50%.
Efficient.
Okay, and then when the principals come in and ask or present their scores, et cetera, then we can see where they fall
Where they
within the
fall
county,
within the whole.
within the whole concept or the whole spreadsheet of the county.
Let me share this with you. So what the principals have been working on or have done for me to be able to report to you is they completed a very quick look form, gives you just some basic information. That tells you some of their strengths, weaknesses, and what their plan is to work on those weaknesses, okay? So that's what they can report on to you, and then they go into the more of the details of the areas and so forth that you speak of that are below 50% and more of the weaknesses. Let me hand you this for you to take home and look at. This is a report that's, and I'll give full credit to Heidi and to Shelley, that is on both math and ELA. Just a summary from a county standpoint. So it's not school specific. It's a county standpoint. You can look at it and that way give you some background and then you can ask questions to principals and so, fair enough?
Do you know when the principals will be coming?
Well, we decided to do that in a special meeting.
Yeah.
Okay.
Said that, so.
Yeah, at some point. For the high school.
And we also have to remember, Mr. Vaughn knows that your book is a resource, one resource.
I agree, yeah, it is.
If they're comfortable with the one we had before and not this one, and they're getting the job done and the students are learning with it.
I just want to know
Just
that
take
up
the
front.
risk at $1.5 million.
Yeah, I just want to know that up front. If you're not going to be comfortable with it, that's fine.
Is
But-
science and social
Yeah,
studies
what about-
not,
How many teachers
Part
do
of
we
the
have on that
evaluation?
adoption committee?
I'm just asking.
And the adoption committee.
Not the
I'm
PS,
sure
not the
they looked
SAT?
at it
Okay.
thoroughly. I'm not suggesting that they didn't.
No,
But
how many
maybe-
teachers were on that?
Right, maybe it was less teachers than there should have been.
I believe on probably the board agenda minutes where that committee was listed. When we adopted that math textbook, usually their names were listed on there. So we can go back and find that committee and see who was on there.
And actually, if you go,
It's generally high
I don't know if
school
anyone's
math.
shown you, if you go into board docs, into the search feature, and put textbook adoption, it's going to show every time it's appeared on an agenda
Yeah.
or minutes.
And
There
we
is a
pay, I
search
mean, they
feature.
spend time looking at the materials. They're usually sent to the building.
how are they
spend time.
selected?
It's usually a committee vote. They get
No,
sent
no,
out.
no, not the books,
Oh.
the people.
The principal generally,
Appoints?
we ask for, actually, sometimes they're volunteer.
You just did the ELA
Volunteer.
adoption, correct, for secondary. She was the lead on that.
And they do spend a lot of time looking over those resources, and you aren't going to get 100% of your teachers on board to use a specific, or, but we do, like, every teacher gets a vote. And one of the things we have done in the last few years to really maximize and be efficient with our costs is we do class sets instead of Every kid takes a book home because we also have the ability, I don't know about math and I can't speak to math, but with English, the ability for those books to be downloaded onto the iPad, and they do not have to have internet access in order to access them. They can download them at school, take them home and be able to use them there. So that is one of the things we started with the math. Actually, I'm thinking about, we started with social studies, math has that, and also English. And science as well, okay. Yeah. I didn't choose science, so I don't know.
If we have a child that wants a hard copy of a book, we have those available.
Absolutely, yeah. And we have, not only do we have class sets, but we have extra sets, and then the student's IEP, for example, allows them to have an extra book for home. Those kind of things should be made available through the school. And that's never been something that we said we can't do.
No, I'm not saying with the current adoption of textbooks. What I'm saying is if the teacher is using material from a previous adoption or an outdated model, and then, the student has no reference at that point.
Yeah.
They don't have any reference to go back and look at examples, or go back and look at, any type of problems that they could have, worked through themselves, because the teacher's giving them a worksheet or giving them a handout, and they go over it in class, but how much can you glean from that, when you need the additional help at home?
I understand.
So it's not, I'm not being derogatory against anyone. It's just an issue that was brought up to me.
Where do I find examples of things like heart of algebra and problem solving and data analysis? Where do I find specific descriptions of what that actually means?
Can you help?
It's probably on the descriptor of the SAT.
Yeah, like, for
Yeah.
example, I have an example, words in context, if you want to see something that's
They're
English
usually
based.
on the,
Yeah, and it cross-references the PSAT, the SAT with our standards. So those are things, we can get real deep with you guys if you want us to, but.
Well, you know me, that's what
Yeah,
I want.
I do, so I brought them, just in case.
Little I know about that.
That's-
One thing, it shows the snapshot of areas that need strengths, weaknesses, and all that need to be worked on. But it seems like if some schools aren't having problems in certain areas, it's like we're painting them all with the same brush, And I think it just needs to be, what are the problems? Let's use Robert C. Byrd, okay? So in their math department or English or where are the areas that they're specifically having their problems rather than, the whole, it may not be any of this.
Right, and they have.
They may have theirs in something else.
That's what they'll bring to you. They have that information for you.
They have all that with
Yes.
them.
Yeah, each school sat down and disaggregated their own data, just like we did as a county.
See, I'm a visual learner, so when they come, if they could bring us the description of what's going on in their school, areas of strengths, weaknesses, and what have you, rather than just tell us, because by the time I leave the room, I will have forgotten it.
So something like you have in your hand.
Right, yeah. it don't
That's
have
what
to
they're
be-
doing.
it
Preferably a
don't
little
have
more
to be,
detailed.
Real deep, but it just gives us an area that,
you gotta remember too, Doug, staffing issues in certain buildings. It could be, if you look at root causes of things, they might have went semester without a, not necessarily, maybe a new math teacher, so the principals will
Oh,
know.
they'll say that.
Yeah, they'll be able to tell you that.
Right.
That will be very specific to different.
Like, where do I find this where it says heart of algebra focuses on linear equations, system of linear equations and functions? I mean, I Googled PSAT heart of algebra and that's what came up. So where do I find this all laid out? This is English.
Oh.
Do you know what I'm saying?
Exactly, maybe I don't know what you're saying. Exactly what are you after? I mean, you want to see examples?
What does it mean by heart of algebra? What does it mean by problem solving and data analysis? Like, see when it says heart of algebra here, it says, I just Googled it, focuses on linear equations, systems of linear equations, and functions. These questions ask you to create equations that represent a situation, solve equations and systems of equations, and make connections between different representations of linear relationships. So where do I find that for this stuff? It lets me know what heart of algebra means.
And I guess I'm trying to, are you hoping to find examples, questions? Is that what you're
Yeah.
after?
That, and like, just like I said, a definition of what that actually entails. Do you know what I'm saying? Does that?
This is a
When that
snapshot
principal-
taken from
When that
something.
principal comes
taken
and
from-
talks to us.
Yeah, I mean, I,
Needs to bring the head of his math department to answer any questions. Let's face it. Most principals, if it's math or certain areas, they're not going to know specific answers in regard to a question that you may have, or I may have, or somebody. But if they brought the head of their math department to and say, hey, let me take this
for
question.
English language.
In English, science,
Yeah.
what have you.
It's from the College Board. I mean, the College Board gives us that specific.
Yeah, where do I find
this
this?
for math as well?
I did not print it out.
Oh, okay, but it is available
Oh,
for
yeah,
math.
it's available for
Okay.
every single,
Yes.
like I have expression
This is what
ideas.
she's
and
wanting.
kind of evidence.
Where do that's what I want to know.
Okay,
you give
it's
us
at-
a copy?
it's on the College Board website,
Yeah.
and
I
it's just a
think just
report.
include that.
I didn't make it up, I'm not that.
I,
It's just a report, but I just know that those are the things that specifically were weak in English, and so I went ahead and wanted to see, like, where do we need to concentrate, and what, to me, which standards, remember you said we
Correct.
have to teach the standards, so when I say command of evidence to a teacher, where do I even find that? Well, you can find it via like 10.1.16.17,
Mhm.
that's where you find that, so that's why I thought this would be helpful
Mhm.
for teachers. So that's the only reason I have that with me. Because those are the ones that we.
Okay, so I can just go to the studentscorescollegeboard.org
Mhm,
and
yeah.
find what I need to
It's a
find.
report, yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
I've seen that coming.
So you want to schedule?
I
a
worked for
meeting
Mary
at some
Francis
point,
for
or do you
7
wanna
years.
Do you
Do it
want-
when I'm finished.
How long do we think this will take?
She knows me.
Why did you leave?
Five high school.
If you just have the 5 high school principals in to present, how long do you think you would need?
Well,
for
and Doug
that?
suggested the English chair, math chair.
Or what Mr. Lopez and I spoke about was maybe the principal / assistant principal that's overseeing
Academics.
the curriculum.
Yeah, please.
I mean, whatever you want, but that was something we.
Well, Doug had just mentioned the math chair and the
Right, right.
English chair.
But I think just high school initially, because.
Yes.
Yeah,
I was including Ashley, by the way. So,
Yes.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's-
But you're talking about only 3 people for each school, or
Mhm.
4,
Right.
whatever. I mean, if they could come and,
No, I get-
just in case.
I mean, we want to do it like 4:30 before the next regular
15
meeting.
minutes.
That's a good
Would that be good?
15.
Yes.
With everyone, 4:30?
On the
Sorry, what-
18th.
what
So
time?
the
4:30
18th.
before the next regular meeting, the 18th.
And all those individuals may not have to report out, but if they would be available.
At least
they can
here to answer
specific
questions.
Yeah. 4:30, 18.
And then we can follow that same pattern as we go down.
Yes.
So, like,
4:30
see how
on the
this
18th.
works.
So that'd be
and
the
then
first
we'll-
meeting.
Kind of like the
Special
board,
meeting.
special meeting.
Special meeting prior to that.
We'll do that.
And while-
Yeah.
and while we're,
Yeah.
While
I
we're
agree.
on this, even though it's out of order, while we're setting special meetings, we do have a special meeting we need to set for next Tuesday, the 11th at noon, just for us to do the superintendent's goals
Okay.
that we weren't able to complete today, so noon next Tuesday.
I'm just going to follow up on Ms. Weavis. It was under technology. I had it written down. I've had multiple conversations with Sarah Stankus is the Assistant Deputy Superintendent at the state level that's been charged with correcting Weavis issues. And they have brought in, she's now reaching out and we're sending her very specific, detailed issues. And they're working through those. It's a slow process.
My question is this, when did Weavis come about? How long ago?
89.
89, it comes,
89.
and this is the first update. Weavis 2.0, it's the first time
Well,
they've
we've
ever
had-
updated.
We've had other ones. This one is a,
Wow.
wow,
Which was-
1 point,
It was very good. Wow.
right. But they dismantled it. The issue is there's a lot of questions. Can you turn the old back on? The old, and why they did Weavis 2.0 and not named it something completely different, it doesn't communicate. So the data that we put in the 2.0 will not, they won't go back and forth. So we're going to have to push through this and allow them, I mean, they're working on attendance now it's one step at a time. They get one piece fixed. But we send them very
It's like an Atari
specific.
2700.
We're sending them very specific
Look
things.
at it.
So I appreciate, I mean, our principals are
We
sending
had the
us things.
2,600 in the 80s.
We want to mention report cards, we're still working through that.
Yeah, report cards, we made sure on Fridays, our goal was to make sure that grades were all cut up in live grades. So we have everything in live grades. They're working for that live grades to talk to Weavis. And they're saying by Friday, live grades will dump into Weavis so we can print a report card. But as of last week, there was not a report card to print. And that's what their focus is this week, because we have school systems across the state that's finishing a 6 weeks. And then we're gonna have the same thing. And my thing to them, and I did had some one-on-one time to talk with them, is that in a county our size, they could tell me tomorrow that it's ready and working, but we need time to verify the grades, certify those grades, and then it takes us 3 days to print report cards and then disseminate them to the buildings. It's not like we can do that overnight. So the frustration is real out there in the schools.
Is the high school
It really is.
right now as far as being able to do report cards and all that? Just everybody?
It's everybody. High schools were our first because they're on the 6 weeks.
Right.
Middle and high school's 9 weeks, so we had a little bit of time, so. But they are asking for specific things and we're getting that to them. We do have a facilities update, and Mr. Lopez does not know this. I had a call with Mr. Delatorre earlier, and he said that the Simpson project with the roof and the HVAC will be ready to go out for bid in 3 weeks.
Right.
He told me that today. And they are coming in next Thursday, him and his HVAC team, Audra and Ernie, to start the HVAC projects and getting them out. So,
Are they gonna meet with you?
yes, they're coming in. Jimmy's just finding out. I put it on the calendar. He hasn't given us the time. He said it would be morning on the 13th. So we are moving forward.
If, and that's just, goes, like I said, is there a possibility that if he's available, if Mr. Hammer can maybe sit in on that meeting?
Yeah, I'll come down.
Sure,
Come
we'll
in, I
send an
mean,
invite.
that, not all, just,
No.
just,
We'll make sure you get the invite.
okay,
I'll come
and
in.
that way,
All I know is he
He'll
said
hear-
Thursday morning.
you know, if you, that's one of them, you tell something and 3 different people here, you go get 3 different stories. So if he could be there, you know, and he can say to us, this is what was smell the meeting, I mean, if
My
you
days,
can.
yeah, my days are filled with talking to architects as it is.
Yeah, I know, you got such a,
There's such
no
a-
problems out that building you guys just got.
And I think Mr. Lopez has another update.
Yeah, well, they have been down, Ernie's people have been down to look at some of the schematics of the buildings to get some of the basic information. So they've been down in Danny's department, they're back down in the mapping room. But also, I know that it's a goal of the board to get rid of some of our excess property. We have Lost Creek, the old Risa building, Adamston building, and the bus garage at Bristol, along with a lot of our extra furniture. We have a lot of extra that will not be claimed by any of our schools and really don't have a place to store it. The Lincoln basement is one that we have a lot of furniture in. We also have a great deal of furniture in Adamston. We've really been pushing the staffs in the buildings with principals to stop over at Adamston and claim, and we've been making deliveries for them. But at some point, we're going to have to draw the line on when that building and all the other buildings come up for sale. So we did meet with Kaufman's to develop a plan on putting together an online auction for a lot of the equipment that we have, really furnishings. And the good thing about them is they will take care of all the legwork on that. So they will inventory everything, and when we walk away from that auction, we will know exactly what we have purged out of our system, which will work well with Mario and our purchasing department.
If we talk to, someone may contact you at the start, I know they were interested at the time in Adams.
I spoke with, that's what I was going to mention. So Danny and I met, and actually we got Mario Bombardier to come down and to Adamston, and we met with Shannon Cunningham, Executive Director of Community Action. And so they toured the facility to see if it would potentially meet their needs, whether they purchase it or you donate it, whatever they really liked the facility, but they were going to kind of look at it for a couple weeks and then get back with us and see if they want to take a look at any of the other, maybe some of the mechanicals. We did show them a lot, but they didn't have anybody from their facility department that really kind of understood, how the HVAC worked and that type of thing.
Who was that that looked at it?
Her name is Shannon
Head Start.
Cunningham.
From Head Start too?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
So their plan, it would be to consolidate several of their programs that they oversee, and perhaps utilize that facility to, like they have the family services, the Head Start, and they
I
talked
believe they were
about,
looking at a feeding center, correct? In that?
yeah.
And they have
Food
they have a
pantry.
facility, they're doing preschool over in Glen Elk, I believe.
Yeah, and Chestnut Hills facility, so they're wanting to do some consolidation with those programs, and so they want to do a cost analysis to see if they consolidated those programs into one facility, that it would meet their needs and they could save some overhead. Also, even their meetings and professional development they do, it'd be a nice place for them to be able to do that.
I think it would, and it's going to help us with the community, because that's all I get is
It'd be utilized as
there's a lot of
an
houses
education
around there. It's not like it's a school that's set out away from houses. We're going to have to deal with it, whoever's there.
I agree, 100%. But like I said, we did meet with Kaufman, so we'll come back with a plan of how we're going to do some auctioning. Down the road, we also will have some school buses to auction, perhaps some maintenance equipment and things like that, but we'll keep you updated on that.
What about the houses?
Well, the houses, as soon as Superintendent tells me what to do.
We actually, the pro officer homes, or they're not all pro homes, but our residences, everybody's been notified. The one is vacant and it could be auctioned. The actual house, the one at Verdant, is vacated. The others, well, we have one in particular that's asked for an extension because he's got to move. So he's got to find a piece of land. The others are all, I think, in good shape. They have a plan. We've got one deputy that is asking for an extension to give him time to get land to get his house moved.
Well, the one where, it's going to be moved off of the facility, off the site, correct?
They could auction that
Yeah.
and
But
have
it'd
it
be,
moved. Yes. So
so-
it could
And
be
it's going to bring less than what you normally would, because you have to move. You have to figure
Yeah,
out.
but like I say, you gotta put a minimum amount.
We're not gonna sell it to
What
what
it
it is.
raises
We're not gonna
for,
sell
and
it
you
to
know
what
it's
it
going
is.
to.
No, they have to move it, so
Because they're gonna have to
they've
move
got to
it.
figure that in, so someone's
I've
not going to
actually
bid
had
what
a
it's
call.
worth, they're going to bid it.
Had a call about that. They want to use it as a campsite. Like there are people possibly interested in it to move it for.
Oh,
So
yeah.
you know what I move it to.
Yeah. Oh, use it for a campsite. Oh,
Like a
yeah,
campsite,
I got it.
If they want to buy
Take it
it,
to
like I
the
said, if the
Yeah.
house is worth, 80,000, you're not
there.
going to get 80 because they've got to move it, so you're going to
Okay.
get, 40.
No,
they're
not
gonna
a
pay
good
for it.
idea.
Yeah.
But it ain't gonna cost 40,000 to move one.
No, but that's what I'm saying, but they're not going to bid, you're not going to get a regular, because you don't know.
Well, I don't know what they're going to with it.
And you move it, it falls apart.
Yes, sir.
Let me ask you, at one time, we had a lot of furniture enough to do maybe a pre-K whole setting or two. Do we still have that?
We do, as a matter of fact, we've already talked with Julie and some of the pre-K people, and we pulled that equipment aside, and we're going to store that in a special place so that we can utilize that in the future.
We're looking
yeah,
at
we're not-
part of our building here,
Yeah.
down on the one side.
I was gonna say,
Yes.
where's our spatial place at?
Well, oh no, to store it right now would be in the basement of Lincoln, because that's really our storage
They were
facility.
looking here.
But we,
Do they
yeah,
not
we have
have
some room here.
a little bit of room on the one end of our.
For
downstairs?
storage?
Yeah,
Yeah, well-
just for that pre-K.
Right.
Yeah, because it's quite.
So is that storage, if we put that down there, is it gonna be okay down there? As
Yeah,
far as-
it doesn't, as long as it doesn't.
On this building, it's a pretty
Yeah.
solid building, our basement,
Yeah.
I don't think we have any moisture.
No.
Okay, that's,
Yeah.
This is actually our basement here, is a bomb
I
shelter.
think it used to be the old control room.
Yeah.
The wall.
The gas
It's all been
control.
pulled out. It's all, but to answer your question, yeah, that was a priority to already start moving that stuff out.
That's several $1,000s.
Oh, absolutely, yeah, it
Not
is.
sure.
I was thinking if you didn't, then you.
And those numbers are growing.
Or, I mean,
Well,
North Creek.
That's really all I had, other than we will have a UTC meeting on Friday. Yeah, and we are completing the certified list. That's been a major job this year. For the certified list, that's what our funding is based on for our employees, so we have to make sure it's correct. It's due the second week of October.
All right, so just to reiterate, next Tuesday, the 11th at noon, superintendent's goal special meeting, and 4:30 on, what day is that?
October 18th.
October 18th, Tuesday at 4:30, and that's when you can bring your folks in, so we'll do that.
And we are having a principals meeting on the 12th,
Okay,
if you guys.
okay. Does that conclude the superintendent's update? With that, we'll move to item 6, consent items. The approval of consent items, is there a motion?
So moved.
Been moved, is there a second?
Second.
Moved and double seconded.
Discussion.
Any discussion?
I'm just looking at the very last item there. It has to do with utilities. And this was, what, between the 15th and the 28th, 13 days? Are we every 13 days paying this, or what's the story there? Or are we up to date currently paying our bills the way they should be paid monthly, or is this not a monthly thing? The very last item in this. City of Bridgeport, City of Salem, Clarksburg Water.
Page 27.
Is that what it is?
Mhm.
Yes, it is, last page, 27. Yeah, or 26.
What's your question?
Well, I just see the water bill from Bridgeport, $11,335.47. And is that for 13 days? Because the check was on the 15th and it was to the 28th.
Well, we received bills from Bridgeport for Johnson, Simpson, Bridgeport Middle, and Bridgeport High, so we're paying them as we receive them now.
You have individual bills. Each
I mean,
facility.
that's a lump, that's not one, I mean, that's any invoice that we receive for those companies that we pay.
What I'm asking though is that only for a 13-day period? Because if it is, that's a great deal of water being used and.
It wouldn't be for a 13-day period, it would be for a 30. And so when we receive them, yeah, and so for the full schools. And so we don't have utilities on each board agenda or when we're paying. So it wouldn't be for a 13-day or anything else like that.
Like for the Clarksburg water.
Maybe that could fall under that description thing
It
again,
does.
where it says
It's
utilities and we give you
It lumps
dates.
them, it lumps them
Yeah.
together. So anytime we have, whenever we pay invoices to one vendor and we have multiple invoices that we pay, it lumps it together into one line.
This is a WEGAS report.
Yes, it's a
Yeah.
WEGAS report.
So our Dominion, 67,000?
That's for all the Dominion invoices that we have paid. So any school that has Dominion gas, including our building here,
How many schools do we have in Dominion?
I would have to check on that. I don't know offhand.
That would be all but lumber.
Probably the
Lumber
Lincoln
portion.
Feeder area.
Lumber feeder
All
area
the
would
Lincoln
not be
Feeder
there.
area, I believe.
What's the like an
Car-
office?
Lincoln feeder area would not be on it.
There's some older buildings that have older, I mean, they're going to use, they're not fuel efficient.
That's not
Yeah,
what
we-
Fred Holmes causing that much money.
I know when we
No,
talk
that's-
about,
No, that's what I was thinking there.
when we talk about amendment 2, and I know the discussion was around, payroll and everything that needs to be done, we haven't talked about facilities with that. And we have some aging facilities
Oh.
that we have really
Absolutely.
shined up and made look nice, but the efficiency of those buildings are not really up to par with like the upgraded Victory Elementary or Johnson or, and so they're energy hogs. At one time, Mountaineer Middle was a real energy hog, and I think we've helped with changing the controls on that building. But we still have ways to go with the efficiency of our utilities.
Well, our older buildings, windows, doors.
Oh, windows, yeah, that's what I mean, with the SBA not really coming around with any even funding, with NEAT grant this year, I worry about, that's one thing to be able to pay our bills, and then if this amendment passes, we're already, and I know it's a different pot of money, but we've got a lot of facilities, and I know I crawl into Door's office with Danny and say, hey, we've got to do this, and you just have to do it with.
And with utilities, just a little thing.
Yeah.
Like I said, the new Lincoln High School.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It's no longer
Right.
new.
But
Right,
even-
we've already upgraded their.
A piece of software, like your controller's just a piece of software, if they're not working right, it could cost you 8 or 10% of the
Oh,
energy just
absolutely.
because they're not done efficiently.
They're still working on just getting everything working correctly at Victory Elementary School. So we have an actual commissioning agent working along with the controls and their department to go through and make everything's up to spec, and it should be in pretty good shape. But they want to get a good part of the heating season to make sure it's corrected, but
And some of
How's
our
the sewage
utilities,
sit
some of our
right around there?
utilities, we pay the G part. So you see a lump on them because we paid
No,
it
it's-
to one on
Is it probably
around
Versus.
and posted all of those invoices and all.
All doing them.
So that's why
Sounds good.
sometimes they're larger as well.
Yeah, the $96,000 loan is for.
It's one of the,
Or one of the energy guaranteed energy savings, which would be, where we replace the lighting to LED lighting. It's guaranteed energy, so that 96,000 is money we would have paid to the utility company for electricity, but instead it's paid to that loan.
company.
So basically, it's a wash. We get new LED lighting, and the way it's financed is on what you're saving.
The only other thing I'm thinking that's come to our attention is the bleachers at some of the stadiums, and they're very high cost items to replace.
all the steel and. the-
Danny came in to see me and presented with the cost for, I believe it was Bridgeport's.
Right.
They're not repairable any longer. So just high cost items.
That's what it was.
All right, any further questions? There's been a motion and a second on the consent items. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. New business, out-of-state professional leave request, out-of-state travel study request. Is there a motion?
I'll make the motion to approve the out-of-state professional leave request.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. No old business, no policy updates, personnel matters. And it is in front of you.
Legal. Oh, legal.
Yeah, personnel.
Move to accept the personnel agenda as presented by the superintendent.
Is there a second?
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Any discussion?
Yeah. I keep looking on these things, and something that just drives me crazy is you look and everybody wants to all of a sudden waive their planning periods to teach an extra class. I look this one here at South Harrison, physical education, health, South Harrison High School, South Harrison Middle, requests to waive 90 minutes of daily planning period for compensation to teach an extra class due to shared curriculum between middle and high school students.
Those are the teachers that travel and go over to the high school, and instead of hiring a person for that school, they'll take the high school teacher to either do a 90-minute class at the middle school or vice versa. We've got multiple teachers in that building sharing courses. think there's a few at Lincoln Middle and Lincoln High School that do the same thing. And we require them now to fill out a form if it's going to be a whole year. But they'll go and teach, I believe the art teacher at South Harrison High School is teaching all the middle school art. So she waives the,
But-
she's,
But she's not there very often. I mean, you know,
Right.
is there a substitute art teacher that's fully certified in art? Are they going there and teaching
not always.
at the high school?
Not always.
So-
Sometimes they have
so-
to cover.
So, are
She
we
would
paying?
not know, because at the end of the year, there is a form that they will send in for payment for a waive of a planning period. And it will have the dates on there. So if they didn't work a day, they don't get paid unless they've done it that day.
Right.
So
Because I
it's
know a
not
person
like
was-
it's just an amount.
I know a
It's
person
based
was
on-
trying to get a hold of that art teacher, has been consistently trying to get a hold of them for something and not there. So, you know, if you're being compensated, you know,
Only if they taught that class for the day. It's based on
so
the
then that
day.
would have to, you'd have to go back and compare that to their daily attendance.
So they probably have to fill out a form then.
They fill out a form, they keep a sheet of whenever they're working.
And who signs off on that? The
And it's the
principal?
school administrator
Okay,
takes care of that.
okay.
Okay,
So it ultimately goes to.
I would like
We
to,
wouldn't have any idea. I mean,
I would like to see
we
us
have to trust that they're.
scrutinize these. If they're going to give up a planning period to be compensated. to
I
be
agree with you.
And I think that would fall, not only in high school, middle school, elementary, whatever, that would fall not only to the principal, but also to your person in charge, like Mr. Dorico's in charge of the secondary. So I think that he, you know, would need to verify along with the building principal to make sure that everything, you know, lines up, you know, is apples to apples and all.
Well, maybe how many's doing it in a particular building, but I don't think we could hold Mr. Dorico to an everyday deal.
Well, I'm not saying every day, I'm saying at the end, when they go to be compensated, a comparison of their,
To make sure it's just not
Their
across the
attendance.
board.
yeah, their attendance, were they there that day, did they teach that day that they recorded? If the building principal needs to, I believe, run it through by Mr. Dorico or Mrs. Mancini, to
But
make
if-
sure that
if-
everything lines
If they're not there that day, the substitute teaches.
The substitute.
So the
covers that.
substitute
There-
will be
and there's a
carried.
form that they can send in for payment.
Yeah, so
And then-
somebody will be in that classroom every
If
day.
they're aware of that, they need to be aware of that. The substitute needs to be aware of that, but they can be paid for that because they're doing
Yeah, they may
actual
not.
teaching.
No, they may just do it.
Yeah.
Well, they just get their standard, well, I just know, but they just get their standard rate of pay. They don't get paid that extra hour. Yeah,
A sub would.
but
If they're not taking their plans.
Yeah, if they don't not get a planning.
So
And
that,
there's a
I
form-
guarantee,
there's a
you're
form
right,
that
probably a
has-
lot of them don't know, they just go in and think that's their day.
Just-
They don't realize that's.
And we discussed that.
I think they're probably aware. I
I
would
think
hope.
substitutes got planning period.
If
I'm
it's a
sorry, say
one-
that one more
I
time.
did not think that short-term subs got planning period.
Well,
Absolutely they did.
Okay.
well, I know a lot of times we
Not a-
used our
not a
substitutes to
single day.
cover.
So day-to-day would not necessarily get a day-to-day substitute is not entitled to a planning period. So if this teacher's absent one day, they'll probably teach the entire day,
Yeah.
planning, no additional compensation. If they're there for a long-term assignment, then it becomes.
Then they would,
different.
yes.
Then they follow, right, long-term doesn't.
And I know a lot of times we use those to cover planning periods because we had an oversized class and there was no way to reschedule or divide the class. They would divide the class and then somebody would have to teach that extra section. So
And
then we
use a
would,
planning.
then they would have to use, somebody would have to come forth and volunteer to use their planning period to cover that one period.
And just to comment on the South Harrison situation, it's so that both schools, the high school and the middle school, has that teacher half a day, because if you didn't allow her to teach during her planning period to be compensated, then one school or the other is losing out that time period. So we're trying to be efficient by not hiring an additional half-time or full-time teacher and just allowing the compensation for this planning, so.
And, okay, I mean, I can live with that if it's, you know, if it's actually being done.
I got you.
And, rather than hire
County for it.
another teacher and what have you, but
Done, documented, and.
yeah, you gotta, I think there's not enough documentation sometimes. It just looks like,
Secretary's better to verify all that.
I still think our folks that are coming in to substitute, and you don't have as many as we used to. So if you bring them in and work them like a mining mule, they get tired also, so they have to think of that.
You are correct, and that's a very valid point, and I appreciate you saying that.
Yeah.
All right, anything further? If not, we have a motion and second on personnel matters. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Moves us down to legal and disciplinary matters. And superintendent recommends termination effective October 4th of employee A for failure to return to work after exhausting all available leave. The letter is there in front of you.
I'll make a motion.
It was sent certified mail, regular mail.
I'll make a motion to accept superintendent's recommendation as presented.
There's a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Been moved and seconded. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? And that is for the termination of Mary Mayer, Cook 3 cafeteria manager. Moves us down to board members' comments. Mr. Tucker?
I just appreciate the idea that we're able to sit down together and then also continue working on the goals that are for our students and employees, and Mrs. Tucker will be working on those, carrying those out. And again, thank you all that came here this evening, and all of you that are listening. We certainly appreciate that. Wish we had it filled up here, and then Mr. Hope would bring in some snacks for everyone.
I can do that. Come the next time.
Ms. Smith?
I just want to say I'm excited about the principals coming in and meeting with us at the next meeting. Being in that position, I know what it'd be like to come in here and actually report the good things and the bad, and how they plan on turning it around for them, for their students. And so I'm really looking forward to hearing those plans and some new ideas.
Mr. Hope?
I may go off on a little personal side. Just my daughter just got certified, fully certified as a teacher. She's jumped through a lot of hoops through the state and panicked every time. What am I going to do? You know, all I say is you need to talk to the people at the county office, that deals with that. I appreciate everybody in the county office that has helped her guide her along. She had a lot of work to do to get it done, but she's now been fully certified. She's been a West Virginia sub for the last 2 years. This was her start of her 3rd year, and the state gave an opportunity where she could become certified as a teacher. I know a long time ago when she was getting ready to go to college, her mother, who was a teacher, and myself encouraged her to become a teacher. She said, I would not do what you guys do for love nor money. But here we go, 20 years or more later, she decided, that maybe it wasn't a bad idea. So she went back, put in the work, and like I said, got certified. And really shocking to me is that she chose special education. She has a soft spot in her heart, like her mother, who taught kindergarten, but for kids. And every day I hear stories about her kids. They're her kids now, and things that that she can do for them, wants to do for them. So, like I said, on a personal side, she's applied for a job, and whatever happens will happen. But like I said, she's well on her way. And she has I told her, a good 20 years to put into it now and all. So, thank you for that.
Mr. Bono?
I will not take anybody's time up tonight. You're free to go.
Oh,
Oh, sorry.
I just have a real question that I meant to ask in the superintendent's update. As far as United or what are our plans about putting a greenhouse back at United or giving them a greenhouse? Is that?
Well, I believe that Heidi's working on
I can
that.
speak on that. Yeah, we actually had a pre-bid meeting, I guess
Okay.
is what I could call it, with Mario and Brandon Sollers, who's the agriculture teacher there, on Monday, I guess it was yesterday. Is it yesterday? Yeah. And he has got all the specs ready, and Mario is going to put those together into a bid, because it's obviously over $25,000, so it has to be bid out. And it probably will not happen until the spring, simply because right now, maintenance is so swamped with
Right.
building the meats lab and the things that they're doing. Besides that, that hopefully this spring, that'll be put into place.
I just think
And
it's
also-
important.
Oh, 100%, and that's what Brandon said. One of the things we're looking at is, because the cost is just astronomical. I looked back at 2021, and we paid, I think it was $30,000, $39,000 for a greenhouse, and now they're like 80.
Right.
It's insane. And so one of the things that we're gonna try to do is actually have the materials here, so that as soon as Danny is able to get his crews started and get it ready, then we can move and we'll lock the price in, because right now, we can only get a 60-day bid.
Right.
And, I mean, that's.
Are they still, originally, they'd come and talk to us about the hydroponic, because there was some grant money. Is that something at least still in the works? Because at that point, that's what interested me, because the hydroponic, they claimed at the time they could grow lettuce at a rate of every 2 weeks, to where they would supply, 60% of all of our needs. I'd just like to we have land out there at United especially, and they grow vegetables there, not flowers. And if we could get to the point where we're using some of those vegetables in the school,
Right.
and supplementing our food, I just think that's a great way to go. And they've got I just like to be able to add greenhouses and that's a perfect place. Flat land, let's do some greenhouses.
Yeah.
And try to buy some of our own food, healthier, and gives those kids a sense of purpose of raising them.
And Mr. Sollers is very motivated. He's very excited about getting it there, simply because he's been a year doing a lot of fish things, because he's in such a small area over at the building that they were in. So he's really motivated, really excited about it. Now, the hydroponics, I do not think will be in the spring. However, I do think that will be on our next budget for the following year. Because just getting the greenhouse itself and putting that.
I just want to, I didn't know what the plans were, as long as we have a plan to get them there.
And a second one at Bridgeport as well.
Yeah, and I'm huge on greenhouses for all of our schools. So, and I'm hopeful that with the Victory, we left that there, correct?
We did.
And I'm hoping they're going to find a need to utilize it.
They have a plan, yes.
Okay, that's all I have, so. With that, is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Moving second, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Children of peace, go in peace.
Yeah.
Oh,